Hi everyone, I'm Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition, and this is Nap Time Nutrition, Daniel's favorite time of the week. Today I'm talking about second wave picky eating, and the only reason I'm using the word picky is because this kid is too young to understand it, because my first point is do not use the term picky eating, because they will own it and they will wreak havoc on your life. If you use any kind of label with your child, they're going to pick up on it and they're going to own it and really live it, claim it as theirs. And so if you use words like picky, then you're really setting yourself up for a bigger problem. So from this point on, I'm going to use the word selective eater. Hello, Dr. Bhattar and Paula. Thanks for joining me. Always happy to have some comments. So first thing, what is second wave selective eating? Well, you may have had an adventurous eater when your child was this size, but now they're 4 years old and all of a sudden they only want mac and cheese or mashed potatoes or chicken nuggets, whatever it is, and they're really stuck on that. So let's talk about why that's happening. Why is it happening? I'm going to try to put him down. Here. Okay, you play. Oh, okay. Why is it happening? Well, first, kids, when they get just past toddlerhood, are starting to assert their independence. And it's the same as when it's bedtime or when it's time to use the toilet, especially during potty training, when it's time to brush their teeth. These are things that kids are really in control of. And if they say no, the answer is no. And if they want to eat, they'll eat. If they don't want to eat, whether that's because they're full or because they're trying to assert their independence against you, that's what they're going to try to do. And this is a really common thing for kids to try to assert their independence. So what we as the caregivers want to do is try to shift that focus away from food and encourage them to assert their independence in a healthier way. And not by playing with my laptop and cords. Also, kids can be modeling their parents' picky behaviors. Let that sink in for a second. When you're first introducing foods to kids, a lot of your own issues can come up. And if you have a history of issues with food, that can really come up during food introduction and during parenthood in general. Your own issues are really put under the microscope and really blown up. And they come back to haunt you, things that you had dealt with. And if you are showing picky eating, if you refuse to eat certain food groups, if you are constantly getting on the scale, looking at yourself sideways in the mirror, thinking I shouldn't eat this because of how it's going to affect my waistline, your children will pick up on that and they want to be just like you. So if that's something that your kids see, first, stop doing it in front of them, and second, consider stop doing it altogether. Consider being at peace with yourself and your body and your nutrition. So if you are showing them any kind of food restriction in your own diet, they're going to pick up on that and model it. They could be refusing food in reaction to punishment, bribing, or rewards concerning food. If you reward them for eating or you reward them with food, it actually starts to create pressure around the whole mealtime situation. And that can affect you as far as when they're asserting their independence, this makes it a target. This says, oh, my mom really wants me to eat that, so I'm not going to. And I know she really wants me to eat that because she's giving me a reward for doing it. So when they're in a bad mood, they're just really going to stick it to you. And that's going to impact how willing they are to try something new. If there's a lack of schedule and predictability, that could also be affecting their appetite. For instance, if they don't know what to expect, they generally don't react that well to things. If you've noticed that in other areas with your child, small kids, toddlers really thrive on schedule. But also, if you don't have a schedule down, you could often run into a situation where you have a large snack close to a meal and they just don't have the appetite to take down what you're putting in front of them. They're not interested in it because they had a snack fewer than 2 hours before the meal. You really want to space snacks and meals 2 to 3 hours apart in order to allow for an appetite. And that really requires a lot of scheduling. They could also be choosing to be picky eaters and selective eaters because of an unpleasant meal environment. If there's a history of you trying to encourage them to eat or reward them or punish them for not eating, if you're having these fights over food, that creates a very unpleasant environment. Or on the flip side, if you're constantly on your phone, if you are having arguments at the table, if the table is a place to air grievances and it's generally an unpleasant place, that will affect your child's nutrition intake in a negative way. So what can you do? Well, first, don't change your routine around the issue. You want to have a routine. And the routine you really want is you want to tell them dinner's coming, lunch is coming, whatever it is. Have age-appropriate chores. They should come help you set the table, because this really clues them into that mealtime is coming, and it helps them get their mind around how you expect them to behave at the table. And it helps get their appetite started as well. There's been a lot of research that's shown that if when you're cooking, your digestion actually starts at that point. Well, your children aren't really participating that much in the kitchen, although I've done a lot of nap time nutritions on that. You should involve the kids in the kitchen. But the same idea holds when you have them set the table. It really clues their body in that food is going to be coming and that they should start the digestion process at that point. So you have them set the table, or have them go wash their hands. You say a family prayer, or whatever it is, whatever's appropriate for your family before the meal, and then you start the meal all together, and that's when they know how they should behave. They know what to expect. It's a really good thing to have routine and schedule for kids. What else? Involve them in meal planning and shopping. And this is kind of a catch-22, because you can sit down on Pinterest with your kid and say, what do you think we should be eating? But that doesn't mean that by the time that's on the plate in front of them, they'll be interested in it. So it's good to involve them, but separate that from the actual act of them eating whatever it is they chose that you took a million hours to prepare, because it's not necessarily going to be linked. And you have to just keep that in mind so you don't get upset. So you can sit and look at Pinterest, but that's kind of a black hole. You can look at some magazines or cookbooks if you want. Ask them what they're having at school, and if their friends are bringing anything that they like. That's a good thing also to get them involved. Shopping, gardening, if you're able to do that, and also cooking preparation. I did a nap time nutrition last week on how to involve your kids in the kitchen if they have autism or other sensory disorder. And I've done other nap time nutritions on involving your kids and how to do it safely. But that's a great idea. Make mealtimes fun. I did stress schedule and routine, yes, but sometimes you also want to make things just especially fun. Have a picnic, invite a stuffed animal to come, and if you're really desperate, invite an adventurous eating friend over, because you can use peer pressure to really help your situation. Kids are more likely to try something if they see a friend trying it. Not necessarily if they see you eating it, which you should, because that works to some extent. But if you have a friend over who's an adventurous eater and you all eat together, then that's a really good way to get your kids interested in something new. You want to really avoid the fight, whatever's going to help you to avoid the fight, and not be a short order cook. You want to serve family style. You want to have a safe food on the table as well as a new food, and you do want to introduce new foods fairly frequently, but completely without pressure. So really, this does not replace advice from your doctor, and I really want to stress that if there is an issue you feel, you should always discuss that with your pediatrician. Make sure your child's growth is appropriate. I did a nap time nutrition on reading the growth charts. You can refer back to that to see explanation on the growth chart if you feel like you didn't have a good enough conversation with your doctor. There are certain things that can impede a child's appetite or behavior at the table. Certain medications, especially ADHD medications, can inhibit their appetite and can come across looking like picky eating, but in truth, it's really that their appetite is altered because of the pharmaceutical. Also, thyroid conditions, reflux, or disordered eating, which needs further evaluation. It's always good to talk to your doctor. The concerns, if your child isn't eating enough, is that there are certain nutrition deficiencies that are common in childhood. Iron being the big one, but also zinc, calcium, and vitamin D. These will show up as anemia, fatigue, difficult moods all the time, which that's difficult with small kids because they generally have difficult moods, and poor attention as well. So Thank you for joining me for this Naptime Nutrition. I've got some really fun stuff coming up. So follow me on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. You're on Facebook already. Next week, I have Toddler Test Kitchen, and we're having some fun with beets. And join me next week for Naptime Nutrition. I haven't chosen a topic yet, so if you have an idea, please comment below. And I will be speaking next Friday at Baby Boot Camp of Chandler and Gilbert, and you should come join me. Check out my events on my Facebook page, and you'll see the details for that. That's a free event. I'm speaking very briefly, and then there's going to be a Q&A and hangout. So I hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.